carrier.
I saw the Tempest for the first time in one match. It was really ineffective, I thought.
Yeah, it's very puny in small numbers.
So you got to mass it before it really gets useful.
Yeah, actually, one of the few compositions that gives me some trouble versus Protoss on a consistent basis is Tempest High Templar. Maybe a few charge loss to dump minerals, but I find my Swarm hosts always clean those up pretty quick. But the Tempest, the biggest problem I have with it is it's not like the carrier where I can keep my Hydras outside of the interceptor range and clean up the interceptors while my locusts soak up the fire. And I also can't rely on spores because the Tempest can snipe them so easily. So it's a whole different unit though. It's very critical mass based. I would say anything less than like 5 Tempest is laughable. Anything less than 10 won't really be much of a threat. But once they get up to 20 Tempest, they just one-shot everything. Even hatcheries, they're just like, oh look, it's a hatchery. Oh no, there's no hatchery
Not anymore.
Yeah. And meanwhile, they're
Now
like,
it's just a mess of blood and guts with like useless broodlings that spawn from it.
yeah. And they're actually surprisingly fast for a siege unit. That's the other thing. It's not only do they fly, but they're pretty fast. So it's like an awkward unit for sure, because it tickles things to death, but it happens to do it really well in large numbers. Okay, so based on that, I guess first we should talk through some of the common builds you're going to see, because if you're not sure of the tech tree, then it's not surprising that this matchup gives you a little trouble with the early timings. So let's say, just going to talk through a few hypothetical situations, if that's okay with you.
Yeah.
What do you imagine your opponent's doing if your Overlord flies through? And well, we'll start with the basics. What do you imagine is occurring if your Overlord flies through? They haven't taken their natural, and they spend 2 consecutive chrono boosts on their cybernetics core while your Overlord's flying through.
Well, if they're spinning Chrono Boost and Cybernetics core, aren't they trying to research Warp Gate as fast as possible?
Mm-hmm.
And then you could assume either A, they're going to try and rush you with some kind of Warp Gate pressure, and it depends on whether it's a 4-gate or a lot of gate push. So
it'll be a 4-gate. It'll once in a while it'll be a 3-gate blink. Once in a really rare while it'll be some kind of like proxy hidden dark Templar kind of thing. They'll put a dark shrine up in some corner of the map. They'll have 3 gateways and they'll chrono boost out warp tech so that they can get those dark Templar in your base ASAP. But especially if they're only on 1 gas, I can almost always guarantee it's warp 4-gate. But the 2 base timings are the ones that are really hard to spot, especially if you're not sure what you're looking at. So, for example, when you flew through there, you just kind of want to think, what is the maximum they could produce off of what they're currently mining? So you saw 6 gateways, and you saw a Twilight Council, and you saw +1 upgrading on my Forge, and you saw me chrono boosting the Twilight Council. What that tells you, especially once you look at the fact that I only have 3 gas, is that not only am I going Blink Stalker, but I'm going Blink Stalker all in. Because if I was going Blink Stalker with a transition into maybe Zealot Archon or Dark Templar, I would have a 4th gas.
Okay.
Also, 5 gates is going to be a lot healthier expansion build versus 6 gates. So sometimes you can even just look at the number of gateways they have. Like if they're on 2 gas, when that fast Overlord Scout goes through, 2 gas, and you see 7 gateways going down, there's nothing they can do but all in. I mean, they physically cannot do anything else off of that. If they tried to expand, it would be one of the slowest expansions ever. So that's kind of the key to recognizing these all-ins, is counting the gateways, to a lesser degree counting the probes, and recognizing how many gas they've taken. And lastly, where that chrono boost is being spent. Because the difference between 5 gateways and 7 gateways makes it just is completely a different game for them.
I see.
All right, so let's go ahead and get into game number 2 here.
Yeah, I've been surfing the forums, because I like the surf of the forums, because sometimes they give me new strategies, and also like to watch people whine. But a lot of people are whining about Protoss being overpowered, especially Terran. I mean, usually the Terrans think they got it all. What the hell? Oh.
I canceled because I accidentally double-clicked, which would auto-start us.
Oh, okay. Yeah, usually the Terrans, think they got it all going on. They've got one thread, and it's Terran overpowered shelter or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of them have been complaining that Protoss is overpowered in TVP.
Oh, yeah, it's possible. I don't play too terribly much TVP, so I wouldn't
Yeah,
know.
exactly. It's a completely unknown matchup to me, but
Yeah, yeah. I mean, once in a while, if I'm coaching a friend and they play Protoss or Terran, then I'll have to play that off race matchup. But it's actually a really fun matchup. At least in Wings, it was. That presents a really big balance issue if they are having trouble with TVZ and then Protoss is doing well versus Terran, because that means if they nerf Terran in a way, then they make them more vulnerable to Protoss, which if Protoss are already strong against Terran, then they've got a problem on their hands. And that's why the solution is always buff Zerg.
exactly.
That fixes everything.
I won't be happy until Zerg auto wins 100% of all matches.
Wait, you mean we're 49.5%? Too low!
Well,
Not enough.
yeah. I don't know, man. 49.2%. He can still become president, or yeah. I mean, did George Bush become president with that vote count, or something along those lines? Like he got less of the popular vote. I can't remember.
Oh, yeah, senior?
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
no. Junior. Against
Junior?
Al Gore in the 2000 election. He got like less of the popular vote,
Yeah,
and
well,
he still won.
electoral system's pretty awesome. So
Yeah.
and it all started because apparently we're too stupid to vote for ourselves. It's good. It's one of those things. Hopefully they'll do away with because it really serves no purpose these days.
Yeah.
I don't know that it ever did, but whatever.
But anyway, my point is like if you've got a matchup, still like it's like 52, 53, 54%. That's like these days considered like a landslide in like a gubernatorial or presidential race.
That is true. So apparently Terran are just landsliding everything.
So yeah, the one thing that I do pretty consistently versus Protoss is I take the Overlord speed first rather than Zergling speed, because I find that Overlord speed versus Protoss is extremely effective.
It's pretty good. I would probably switch that up because, for example, that last game we played, if you had Zergling speed when you had those, 20 or 30 Zerglings, I didn't have Blink quite yet.
Yeah.
And I was already applying pressure. You could have maybe caught me and punished me for moving up before my Blink was finished. And, those opportunities never present themselves if you don't have Zergling speed.
Yes.
The other thing is, I noticed you didn't have Zerglings on the Xel'Nagas. That's a must-have in both ZVP and ZVT.
Okay.
Because that allowed me to get that close-up pylon.
Oh.
Yeah, for that drone, you generally want to probably just turn around. I find sometimes that's better than hanging out, because you're not going to really kill a pylon with it,
I know, but you still get that annoying "our base is under attack" message over and over again.
That is true. That is one advantage. I'm so bad at pylons and probes. Where are my overlords?
Yeah, I do notice that even still talking does get me behind. I forgot a little bit off on my gas timing. I guess it's still not to the point where it's like happens subconsciously. Where it's like, at the point where you can like drive a car or whatever without really having to devote any kind of conscious like resources to it. I still have to. It still have to like think about, okay, now's the time for gas, and it's not automatic quite yet.
Yeah. That second drone scout, I would pretty much never do that.
Never second drone scout. Okay.
Never. Yeah, it's even one drone scout ZVP can set you back quite a bit on economy.
Okay.
But a second, I mean, that's a pretty big impact over the course of the game, especially if you lose both.
Oh, I've seen this before. Oh, whoops.
Ah,
What?
I look away for 1 second, I lose everything. Sucks being at Platinum League.
Yeah, I know. Tell me about it.
So are you finding yet that people are, able to keep up with the multitasking, or are they doing a lot of, kind of A move and look away, or what's it like?
In Platinum League, it's definitely a little bit. That still happens. It's still kind of like a move, see if I can win, type of deal. But it's way less than it was in Gold League.
Well, that is good. Yeah, that'll gradually taper off. By Diamond, you should see people generally managing their units pretty well. Not always, but...
Well, I mean, everybody makes mistakes.
That's right.
There's my words of wisdom. See something, oh, there's like some crazy crap going on over here.
So that actually is a really good find. That makes a huge difference. Now, what can you infer from that?
That you were probably amping up for some sort of early pressure or something along those lines. That you were trying to find an area where you could start warping in units. And now I see your allotted gate over here.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, anytime you see a close pylon like that, it's giving you a good clue as to what's coming up. It's not necessarily guaranteed, but especially once you confirm a lot of gateways, you're going to be good to go to just put up some spines. Whoa, that was me.
Yeah, well, I think I'm done again.
Yep. I like the response. It's a lot quicker. The one thing that's really tricky about this hold when you're going mutas is it's really easy to underestimate the number of spines you need.
Okay.
I would say if you're going into mutas, double that many spines actually isn't a bad idea. You may even want to say, you know what, I'm just going to make less spines in favor, or less lings in favor of more spines, because, I mean, you saw how quickly the Zerglings melted.
Yeah, you're right.
The one critical thing there is if you see them chrono boosting their forge, that's indicative of +1 timing. And +1 attack on a Zealot is a 33%, or I'm sorry, a 50% increase in damage against Zerglings, because they go from 3-shotting a Zergling to 2-shotting a Zergling.
I see.
So that's actually a huge difference. It's a kind of a fundamental timing for Protoss, and vice versa. There's a lot of counter timings to that. A lot of players will actually time their +1 carapace to equalize that so that their Zerglings stay relevant. But obviously, in this case where you're going mutas, that's not a gas investment you're going to want to make.
Yeah.
So, in that regard, I would say the roaches you could probably skip entirely. When you're going 2-base muta, you probably just want to go right to 2-base muta. Okay. So you want to keep yourself alive with speedlings, spines, more spines, quite a bit more spines. And then just get that massive mutas high enough that you can go and snipe those sentries, and then they're going to be forced to retreat or just lose their army more often than not.
Because usually when I see a 4-gate, and then I know they're probably not going to go Stargate, at least they're far away from a Stargate, and I generally find mutas to be pretty effective against a ground Protoss army. For the most part, if you can get in there, get enough of them that you can one-shot stalkers, you can like micromanage your mutas to focus fire them down pretty easily.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, they're phenomenal.
Yeah.
The trick is just surviving to that point. That's the really tough part. Can we watch this replay real quick then?
Yeah, sure.
Because I think this one's going to give us a lot more to work with than the last one. I think we were kind of finding our ground that game.
Okay.
Now, the first thing I'm kind of wondering about is that hatch first. If they're not yet pylon blocking or cannon rushing you, I should say cannon rushing you in any way that's threatening.
I've been cannon rush, but usually I figure it out pretty quickly. Like some guy was like really obvious about it. It's like this probe is just kind of like sitting around at my natural. And I go and sit my hatchery down. I'm like, where'd the probe go? Oh, it's behind my mineral field putting a pylon. Oh. It's just... There he is.
Yeah, okay. So right now it's kind of at the stage where if you recognize the probe is acting awkward, you're probably good to go. Okay. All right. So that's fine. So this is a 15?
No, it's 14. 14 hatch. 15 pool. I think I was a little bit off, and usually 16 gas. But I think it was more like 17 or maybe even later.
Okay. The one build, I hate to standardize you, the one build you may want to consider, and I tell you what, actually, this next game, this will be a fun experiment.
Okay.
This next game, and I'll actually pause here, what we're going to do is I want you to do the exact build you're doing right now. It's what you're comfortable with, you're good to go on it, but what I'm going to do is I'm just going to flat out tell you, I will cannon rush you next game.
Okay.
So the only thing you have to do is execute that hatch first into pool, and then after that you can go ahead and do whatever you want to deal with my cannon rush, because I want this to be a case where we test the viability of this build versus the high level cannon rush.
Okay.
There is such a thing. People can cannon rush their way well into high masters. I've seen some people like into grandmasters. Granted, that was back when the MMR wasn't working right for it, but still. Some people do actually have grandmasters in their record because of cannon rushing. Which is awesome.
It's depressing.
So I want to give it a test, and honestly, I don't know how to work. You may hold, you may not, but I just want to make sure this is something that'll be viable for you, because I think one of the worst ways in the game to lose is build order loss, because, I mean, at the moment you see the load screen, you've technically lost, because the other guy came in with the intention of doing something that just happens to automatically win.
Yeah. Well, in comparison to your build. That is. Yeah,
exactly. Yep. And that's the thing. Like, that's why I don't like blind hatch first versus Zerg, because if your opponent opts to 10 pool and they're good at their 10 pool, they win. I mean, there's just it just doesn't go any differently. I mean, maybe if you went like a 14 hatch 14 pool, but that's not really a good build versus a lot of other ZVZ. So thus far, I think you did okay. The one thing I would like to see is one spine here.
Where can you like ping
I'll
it,
pop
or
that.
like where there, or
Yeah, there we go. Forgot we can do that. Let's see, what is that?
like right beside the ramp there?
Why isn't it just alt click? That is weird. Okay.
Alt
yeah.
G, yeah.
Yeah, that is very odd. It should just be alt click. But yeah, you just want to. This map is one of the tougher ones to hold, but right at the edge of this creep, right, kind of north of that Zergling that's barely touching the creep.
Yeah.
That technically gives coverage to both your ramp to your main and your natural. It's not really optimal until you get a creep tumor down, but it's going to do well enough because that spine's going to prevent you from needing to make probably 5 drones worth of Zerglings.
Okay.
So even from a resource standpoint, that's a good trade, but from a larva standpoint, it's a phenomenal trade. And your cue to do that is probably just going to be anytime you see Gateway first. Believe it or not, it's just that transparent. Because if you think about why they're going Gateway first over Forge FE, well, they're sacrificing a ton of economy, so they need to make that economy back in economic damage. And in this case, it felt like you held it, but if we look at the drone count, actually because of all the Zerglings I forced, it still did economic damage.
I see.
So the damage was done, believe it or not, in a very indirect way, but it did set you back significantly.
Game resumed.
Okay.
It's a depressing thought. It's like you kill them and you win the battle, but you still lost overall.
It used to be, believe it or not, Protoss would win a lot of games by just leaving their natural, getting to the Xel'Nagas, killing the Zerglings on the Xel'Nagas, and then turning around. And it was a really high-level way to play, and it won thousands of games for players.
So, because what, it would deny them scouting, or...
Nope. You know that reactionary concept we've been working on where you make units when you see the opponent move out?
Yes.
Well, if the Protoss player moves out with just enough army that it looks like it could be a gateway timing, but doesn't send a probe along with it, you have no way of really knowing if that's the case.
Yeah,
so you make
like,
a bunch of units, and
like,
he turns around and takes his third.
Yeah, that's like Sun Tzu Art of Warfare type of, type of metagame
that's
stuff
exactly
going on.
Yep. If your opponent is quick to anger.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the kind of thing that you're going to see more and more, especially at Masters. It's very high level play. But these days, I feel like they've given Zerg a lot better options because of the Queen range. That was back when Queen only had 3 range, so as a defensive unit, they were pretty bad.
What is it now? Is it 6? No, 5.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Pretty good. Okay, so...
That's not bad. And this is where I die.
Yeah. The other thing is, once you see them breaking these rocks, you can go ahead and shuffle all of your spines over.
I see. Yeah, I was like thinking, well, maybe I can make them... I was... Because this happened to me in one game where I saw them breaking the rocks, so I would move one spine over, then they'd run away, and then they come around and try and attack.
Yeah, and there's going to be a dance, but especially when you only have a total of 3 spines with 1 more under construction, what you can do is you pull them all up, put them all over at that ramp, and then if you see them back away and they don't come back right away, go ahead and chase them down with a Zergling. Just sacrifice 25 minerals to confirm they're looping around, and you're going to have time to uproot your spines and put them back over to the other ramp.
I see.
It's kind of one of those clutch moments, but if you're real quick about it, you will get those spines back down in time. The Queen. You're getting to the point here where I'd like to see no battle lost with a Queen at 176 energy. Transfuse is really, really good, especially on spines.
Noted.
So, right now...
take notes.
Well, fortunately, we'll have a recording for this.
Yeah, exactly. I can rewatch it if I need to.
Now, that means you've got your queens on 2, so that means just when you've got a battle going, even if you don't necessarily know exactly what energy those queens are at, you can probably bet that by 12 minutes, for the time being, they have enough energy to transfuse. Down the road, when you're reaching high masters, hopefully your injections and creep tumor drops will be tight enough that won't always be the case. But in this case, don't be afraid to just press 2 and spam out that transfuse. Now, the other thing is you've got 2 queens up in your main, you've got another queen at your natural, and this is definitely a case where all 4 of those queens need to be right up front fighting and transfusing. So, for defensive purposes, make sure you're utilizing them.
How many queens should I ideally build? Should I have like a lot? Should I have like 2 per hatchery or something, or is there like a good number, good rule of thumb?
For now, I like 2 per hatchery. That's good.
Okay.
And yeah, I mean, I guess one thing that kind of drives the point home we were making earlier with that Zealot, Stalker, and Mothership Core is you have not lost any drones yet, but you're at 36 drones to my 42 probes at 12 minutes.
Yeah.
And I'm going all in. So that means you are in really rough shape from all those Zerglings. Um, okay, now there's one more thing, and that is none of your units, again, are on control groups.
Yeah, I've been trying to switch over my hatcheries to like 4 and 5, but I can't do it. And it would make more sense to have your army as number 1 and number 2, but I don't know, I like it where it is right now, but that for some reason I always forget then to put my armies on hotkeys.
I gotcha, okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's something you're going to have to kind of, I don't know, post-it note on the monitor or something.
Yeah.
You need something that's really going to keep you remembering that, because that's super critical.
Okay.
Okay, then, I mean, 4 drones on gas, but little stuff like that I'm not too terribly worried about. So I think we're ready to look at the next game. But yeah, the big thing is try and get in the habit of having all those units on at least one control group, but by the time you've got mutas out, I would split them into 2. Okay.
So this is our cannon rush experiment right here?
This is our you will definitely be cannon rushed game. And we will see how it goes.
And I can't like metagame it, be like, well, yeah.
Well, you can metagame it so far as to say, the moment that I drop my pool, I can save up for Zerglings. I mean, you can do that. I don't mind that at all, because I want to see if you execute your build and you then read Cannon Rush perfectly, how would it play out?
Okay.
So, what are the other 2-player maps? I am drawing a blank. Oh, Belshir Vistage. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember most of the map names for the life of me. The only one I remember is Core Hall City, because I hate that map.
It's pretty bad.
It's like the worst map in the history of maps.
Okay. All set?
Yep.
All right. So, yeah, you drop that pool, and then you can do whatever you want. You can pull all your drones if you want.
Okay. Well, no, I got to do the hatch first. That's the thing, right? That's
what I mean.
That's the whole point.
Yep, you hatch first, then you drop your pool, and then after that, you can metagame it all you want.
Okay.
I love the comments whenever I'm coaching on the chat. It's like, why is he playing Protoss? Did he switch?
Oh.
Like, no. It's all good, guys. It's really fun when I spend like a day off racing just to get some perspective, because sometimes I'll get into this like, oh, Terran's OP, you know? And if I off race for a day, I find that kind of nips it in the bud. Except for the times when I prove myself right and I run like 80% versus Zerg. But anyways. It's really funny because everyone's like, did he switch? Did he switch? It's like, no, sorry.
We require more minerals. We require more minerals.
Go here.
We require more minerals.
This is actually a fun map to look at this on, because this actually is one of the tougher maps to cannon rush, I'd say. Interesting.
Do a lot of cannon rushing.
Yeah, it's a hobby of mine. As far as hatch first maps go, this might be one of the better ones. Still not seeing a hatchery.
That's because it's not. I'm now have the minerals to do it. And then you just
Okay.
blocked it like a jerk. Well, that's. I thought the whole point was.
Keep going. We're just going to play this out. Any of your good Protoss players, whether they're cannon rushing or not, are going to do at least a little bit of this.
Okay.